Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Shawn, and before we jump in this episode, I just wanted to give you a quick note. Something that if you can do for us would be amazing. It is the 2022 Podcast Awards going on right now. It's our 7th year trying to get into the slate. If you don't know, there's a nomination period all through July 1st through the end of the month. Go to podcastawards.com, pick out Language of Bromance for the Best Host Award. Like I said, it's our 7th year. We're trying to make the slate. If we make the slate, that means we get voted on. Actually, not really voted on, but we get actual people listening to the show telling us if it's good or bad, and then we could win Best Male Host. So please go to podcastawards.com and nominate Language of Bromance for the Best Male Host. All right, now for the show. Yeah, I've seen a couple of people playing the DayZ videos, and that's another game. It's like if you had nothing in life to do besides like come home and play video games, that would be a fun one to do.
The survival games can be fun.
Yeah, but like with that one,
I'm really hit or miss on them, though. What was the last one I really got into? Valheim. I was playing a shit ton of Valheim.
Is that the Viking one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember playing that. But but you don't have people on there with you, right? You're just by yourself, unless you invite people.
Which this V Rising works like that too. Like you can do worlds by yourself, or invite other people, or put yourself on someone else's world.
Gotcha. I've got an itch for to start playing hockey. Like I haven't played a sports game in a while.
Yeah.
But I want to play Destiny too, and I have very little time to do much of any of it. So, I have been. Speaking of video games, I have been. Are you recording right now? Because last time we had okay. So I've been playing.
I hit the button.
TMNT Shredder's Revenge with Jacoby.
Yes.
Yeah, it's cool. Did you get it?
I did not. Honestly, the reason I didn't was because I was like, oh shit. I was like, if there's crossplay, I was like, that'd be super dope. And there is crossplay, but it's only Xbox PC crossplay.
Yeah, if they do crossplay in terms like you and I can play together, you need to get it, which I don't know if they'll ever do. But it's like the old arcade game.
Right. Yeah, I've seen it. I watched the whole playthrough of it.
It's
when I was at work.
And like we play like 2 or 3 levels a night or every other night, and he really likes it. And it's up to 5 players, so Tiffany plays too. And Tiffany gets mad, and she almost throws my controller, and I get mad at her and say, "Hey, these things are expensive. Knock it off."
I thought it was 6. I thought you could do 6.
Yeah, no, you're right, 6. Because 4 Turtles, April, and Master Splinter. Which I played as Splinter. He sucks. I didn't like him.
And then you can unlock Casey.
I don't know how to do that yet. There's a lot of like secret stuff you get. Like you get Vern's cassette tapes, VHS tapes, Irma's diary. Who's the news boss?
Wow.
I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, you get something from him too. And they got the toads. I don't remember what they called them, but the toads are in there.
The punk frogs.
Were they punk frogs? Because they're from like Louisiana, or they moved to Louisiana. They're only in a few episodes. They weren't super popular, but it's super dope, and I like it.
No, it looks super fun. It did look super fun.
But you know what isn't super fun?
What?
The movie I saw that we're going to talk about.
Oh, no.
It ruined my childhood. Now I hate dinosaurs.
Wow, that's a big statement there, bud.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of burying the lead, but I didn't realize it was that bad. I guess we're gonna find out why.
Roar!
What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we're speaking the language of bromance. Shawn saw a movie, and I want to hear about it because I am nothing but excited? Question mark? I don't know.
Question mark, exclamation mark.
Okay. So here's the thing. We're going to talk about Jurassic Park.
Jurassic World.
Maybe we'll talk.
Dominion.
Maybe we'll talk about Jurassic Park the whole time. Maybe we won't. However,
who knows?
I'm going to preface this by saying that Jurassic Park should have ended like 2 movies ago, I think. Because at this point, I'm not really seeing anything super cool or new from. Okay, like so Jurassic Park original, of course, fantastic. Jurassic Park 2, kind of cool in the sense that, like, hey, look, it's dinosaurs, but they're fucking walking around on city streets, and you're like, oh my god, I want to see what happens.
That dog's barking at that T-Rex. What's going to happen?
Light. Yeah.
Jump.
Jurassic Park 3, I remember-ish, but I remember I was kind of like meh on it. Yeah, I think like, they added flying dinosaurs in that one finally, so I was like, okay.
Did they have them in the other one? They had them in the first one because they're flying away from the island. And I think they might have been in the second one a little bit. But yeah, the third one,
the newer one that oh god, the first one of this newer kind of series that they've done that has Chris Pratt in it. Like that first one I thought was kind of cool because then it's like, hey, we actually did it. We made fucking Jurassic Park and there's rides and look at the little spinny balls and oh fuck, what did we do? Oh shit, we fucked up.
We made an invisible dinosaur.
Like at that point, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. But then I saw a trailer for the next one and I'm like, I'm not really seeing anything new.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that's like that's making it like a big draw for me. And the same thing with how many have they done since then?
This is the 6th one, yeah. And they said this was the end of the era and like everybody in this movie was like, we were done with this era like 6 years ago. Everybody looked like they're like, I am here just for the green. Just for the money. Let's get this shit over with and call it a day.
Yeah, yeah, I saw a trailer for this one and I was like, oh, they're making another Jurassic Park. Okay.
Yeah, so
were
you
like
like
Mission Impossible at this point? But even Mission Impossible, I would say, like, has a little bit of something to it because it's like, what the fuck? I'm Tom Cruise and I'm going to hang on the side of a fucking plane. You want to see me almost die doing this shit? Come
but
watch.
With that,
and you're
I
like,
mean,
okay.
It's just like with Mission Impossible, it's like James Bond movies, right? Like you can always come up with some kind of like espionage or like something that's a little different. But with these movies, it's like, what do you do after, like, they're all the same story. You know, it's like Jaws. It's like, what are you going to do to make a shark in the water even more entertaining than the first one? Like, Jaws 2 was okay. Like, it was like, yeah, okay, I'm down with that. Jaws 3, you're like, I mean, okay, like, it's in SeaWorld, okay. Jaws the Revenge.
Jaws 2 called The Revenge?
No, that was the fourth one where Jaws goes to...
That was the fourth one.
Yeah, it's like Jaws in Bahama. Jaws goes on summer vacation.
Yeah.
That one is horrible.
Jaws in space.
Yeah, that's what's coming up next. But this movie here, that's what it gave me feels of like Jaws. This just could have been Jurassic World: The Revenge, and not even like Jaws: The Revenge was better than this movie, to be completely honest.
Wow!
But, so you've seen
Sean's coming out swinging. I've never really seen you. I've never really heard you shit on like totally shit on a movie before.
Yeah, like I got up once to go to the bathroom, and usually I try to hold it, and I was just like, I need to get up. And then like 20 minutes later, my phone rings because my son accidentally butt dialed me with his grandma's phone, his Gigi's phone. And I was like, I'm sure it's a butt dial. I'm getting up anyway. And didn't miss a single beat. So you've seen all 5 of them up to this one, right?
I have not seen the last one.
The one that just came out or the one before it?
Both.
Okay. So let's start with the saga of all this, right? Like everybody probably knows what's going on, but like Jurassic 1, you know, cinema gold, one of probably the top 100 movies ever made. You know, it was real life dinosaurs. It was Steven Spielberg. But like it was a good movie. Like it's like what's going to happen here? And they have this park based off of a book. The book was pretty good itself.
Yeah.
And like, of course, with these movies, whenever they're so big, it's like, well, we got to sequel the shit out of this. We got to franchise this thing to make money. So they come out with Jurassic Park 2, which is kind of like, hey, did you know there's another island? Because the whole thing with the first island is they had to give them some injection or they would die. And it gets kind of fuzzy. And that's why I feel like they could have really built like a cool mythology with all this. But there's like a second island. But somehow the T-Rex from the first island was still alive. I'm not really 100% sure on how all that worked. But either way, second movie, they go to a different island. Rich people are trying to make Jurassic World San Diego. And they come, they take all the dinosaurs, and they're like, oh, shit, it happened again. They got out. They go back, and they make a sanctuary. It's like, okay, cool. The third movie... None
of us saw this coming.
Yeah, exactly. So then they're coming out with a third movie and like, well, we're going to have Dr. Grant in it. And you're like, well, how the fuck's this going to work? Like, they're going to do the exact same thing. And honestly, like, as I've thought about it, Jurassic Park 3 is where the storyline is this kid is going on like this trip where they get close to the island. His parachute messes up and he's trapped on the island. And so his parents are going to go there and they hire Dr. Grant because Dr. Grant knows everything about dinosaurs to help.
Yeah, I feel like the premise of the third one is like, look, we got Sam Neill. Isn't that cool? He's fucking around with dinosaurs again. I feel like that was the whole point of the third movie. But, like, look, we got Sam Neill to do it.
But what I like about it is it's definitely a standalone movie. Like, it's a different take on what Jurassic Park could be. And like, as I thought about it, it's really kind of like almost like a D&D tabletop one-shot story, right? Like, you got to go rescue somebody. You got different battles. And so it worked. Like, you watch it and it's like, okay, it's not Jurassic Park, but it works. Like, I don't like hate it. They put it all to rest. And then you hear Chris Pratt, the new, Hollywood star from Guardians of the Galaxy, is going to be in this movie called Jurassic World. And it's definitely a remake of the first one, except like, hey, guess what? We got it all figured out. There's been no accidents. People are actually getting bored with dinosaurs. And I love that concept because, like, you think about now, Richard, you go to a zoo and you see a lion, you see a tiger, you see an elephant, and you're like, that's kind of cool, but where's the snacks, right? But hundreds of thousands of years ago, like, people didn't see, not hundreds of thousands, but like thousands of years ago, people didn't see these things whenever they wanted to. And the same thing with these dinosaurs. Everybody's like, oh, cool, it's a T-Rex. Saw it 100 times already because I got a season pass. Next.
Yeah.
So we had to keep implementing new things. Of course, repeat, Jurassic Park, dinosaur gets out. Everybody runs for their lives. Then they realize, hey, this is a stupid idea to have a park full of dangerous dinosaurs.
Again.
Again. And so, Rich, this is where you're like, okay, that's good. Jurassic World 2. What happens? Well, we got to go back and save the dinosaurs because the volcano's going to explode and all the dinosaurs are going to die.
I was going to ask, why are they saving the dinosaurs?
In the second one, they were saving them because it was like, well, we can't let them all just die. Like, that's not the humane thing to do. And the shitty thing about that movie, so like, as they save a bunch of them, and as the island's like exploding, like basically like getting demolished by this volcano, there's one Brontosaurus at the dock, like the last dinosaur trying to get on Noah's Ark, and it's like, as ash and fire's hitting it, and everybody's watching and crying and going, ooh, as it falls in the water and dies. You're like, oh my God, that's horrific. But the director of that movie came out after the movie was released and everybody saw that. He's like, oh yeah, you know that Brontosaurus? That was the first Brontosaurus that Dr. Grant and the lady doctor saw when they came on Jurassic World. So the very first dinosaur you see in Jurassic Park besides the raptors, that big Brontosaurus, he's like, oh yeah, that dinosaur that died horrifically, it was that one.
I mean, like, just cuz?
Just cuz. Like, there's no, like, it's a horrible moment. Like, you're seeing this dinosaur die a horrific death. And like, oh yeah, let me make it worse. That was your dinosaur that you first saw when you're like, oh my God, they can make dinosaurs real.
Yeah.
No, I just kind of, he could have been like, that's Helen Keller's dinosaur too. You're like, oh man.
Well, that's fine, because then it can't see the terrible mess it's in.
Yeah, because she was in the attic,
Helen
right?
Keller was blind.
Oh, wait. I thought she was in an attic.
No, that's Anne Frank.
Who the fuck's Helen Keller?
Helen Keller was She was blind, deaf and blind. And then Anne Frank wrote the diary.
Mm.
And then the Brontosaurus was the one that you saw in the original Jurassic Park.
Wait, is that the Brontosaurus that ratted her out?
No, that was, I don't know. I don't know my Anne Frank history.
I don't remember how they found her.
You know what? I feel, sidebar here, okay? And you should probably edit this out. But sidebar, okay? I don't know how it's happened, but it seems like for the last 2 or 3 episodes, somehow we either skirt around or lightly brush up against the Holocaust, and I don't know what that is. I don't know what's happening here.
I don't know.
It's freaking me out a little bit.
That was just a Clerks 2 joke because they had the whole Helen Keller Anne Frank joke. That's just where I got it from.
Well, yeah, but then but then you're like, well, who ratted Anne Frank out? And I'm like, God damn it, now we're getting, we're just, I can see it. I can see the Holocaust in the distance. And I'm like, man, I don't want to go there. Because who wants to go there?
Speaking of that, to get somber, but one of the guys I know is going to Germany for a vacation. He says he's going to one of the concentration camps to visit. And I was like I want to go to Normandy, just because I think the weight of that beach would just kind of be one thing, but to go to a camp and see all that, just the weight of seeing that would.
I don't know. I get that. I don't know. I've toured the Holocaust Museum.
Is that in DC or is that in St. Louis?
In DC.
Okay.
And it's heavy, but I'm glad that I did it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does kind of I don't want to say put things in perspective, but when you have a better context of how horrific it was, yeah, it's super heavy.
Well, I mean, you read about stuff.
It's heavy, but you're glad that you go.
Yeah, I think it helps make you not that you don't understand what happened, but I think it just makes it even more real. Because you can see movie documentaries and see pictures and read stuff, but until you're looking at something that was
right,
this was at such and such, you're like, oh, when I was in DC, they've got a bunch of the stuff from the towers and stuff like that from 9/11.
Yeah,
and, you see that stuff because we lived through it, we saw it, and it's oh, that's crazy. But then you see a physical thing that was this was part of X tower, and you're like that was there that day when everything happened. You're just ooh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what the Holocaust didn't have? Dinosaurs.
It did.
You know what that is, Sean? That's me pulling the ripcord on this entire conversation.
Although there are movies with Hitler in the middle of the earth with a T-Rex, I believe. So he was trying.
God damn it.
But anyway, so the second one, they got to go.
Bringing it back.
They got to go and save all the dinosaurs. And so they take them wherever. And I don't remember how they got it. That was one, the first half of the movie was pretty good. But then it just kind of devolves into this weird, just, I don't know, just a weird movie. Then they all get out and it's now we got dinosaurs in America. Cue the movie I just saw. Jurassic World Dominion. Richard, this movie opens up with a newscast, which I think 90% of movies that open up with a newscast are horrible movies. The exception to that is Dawn of the Dead remake, because it opens up with that. But it's got Johnny Cash singing in the background. So,
not for nothing, but the direction they should take the whole Jurassic thing in is basically the dinosaurs get off the island, and then you have this post-apocalyptic world with dinosaurs.
Well, I thought that's what they were going to do with this, because that's kind of they showed.
That's what I thought they were going to do with this, but it didn't. But then I saw a trailer and I was like, oh, well, okay, maybe that'd be all right. But then, the more I watched, I was like, well, no, I don't think it's that at all.
No, and there's hardly any like there's dinosaurs in this, but it does not feel like the focal point of this movie. Because there was like this trailer that came out like a year and a half or 2 years ago of like these people like in like RVs like in the middle of nowhere, almost like you said, like this is post-apocalyptic, like they're on the hiding and a T-Rex comes through. And you're like, this would be dope. Like instead of zombies running around, like you got to worry about like T-Rexes and raptors because they're breeding like rabbits and they're all over the place. You know, it's like that turret game.
T-Rex.
Yeah, everybody's got guns, and like you got a dude with like a raptor head on his because he's like, I'm king of the raptors.
But I will see the raptors in Valhalla.
Yeah, it's like what's his face from what was Matthew McConaughey in that dragon movie?
Rain of Fire.
Yeah, you have like a dude like that jumping off something with a axe trying to hit a T-Rex and he gets eaten alive.
That was kind of a cool movie.
Oh, Rain of Fire is like super underrated.
You know what? I agree. I feel like the CG for the dragons in that movie, top fucking notch.
100%.
Top fucking notch.
And like you think of a movie where it's like it kind of pulls in like medievalness, and it's like because that one opens up where like they find this thing and all of a sudden like they cue like 15 years in the future and they're like, guess what? These fucking dragons destroyed everything and we're back to like medieval times.
Yeah,
and I'm all for that. Like I like seeing when they like put people back to like basics and seeing how they survive. Like Walking Dead did that okay a little bit.
What happens after Fight Club?
Yeah, and then Matthew McConaughey comes and freaking with his U.S. accent, but no, I don't think he had a Texas accent in that one. And he jumped and cut that dude, tried to cut that dragon, but he got eaten or he got blown, like, burned or something. But anyway,
I don't remember.
Movie doesn't do that. So it opens up with a newscast. And like I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, so like this is kind of cool. They're talking about like 100 or 300 deaths per year related to dinosaurs, like car accidents or something happens with dinosaurs, getting in the way. But like life in general still goes on.
Okay.
But then they started talking about like this rumored genetically engineered little girl, like the age of 13, that in 5 previous movies had never been talked about. There was no discussion of any genetically created kids at all in any movie at any point in time.
Wait a minute. Oh, so they made kids?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, that kind of felt like a throwaway line. Like, that can't be the basis for this whole movie, can it? Richard?
Are the kids part dinosaur?
No, which would have been better, but it wasn't. So we get on our 2 main characters, Chris Pratt and what's her name? Claire, I think is her name in the movie. Isn't she Ron Howard's daughter?
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah. So like they're together, and then there's this like older girl that's with them, and she kind of looked like the girl from the first one.
Okay.
Like the very first Jurassic Park. And so I was like, well, is that like supposed to be like maybe her kid or like surely she's not the genetically modified kid or the genetically created kid. And they kind of talk in code, but you basically find out that, somehow in between these movies, they got a hold of this girl and are like trying to keep her safe. Like last we saw, they were just like trying to get away from dinosaurs in America. And now they've got this lab created kid that they're trying to protect. And they're like the adopted mom and dad kind of thing.
Okay.
So like right away, this is
okay. So wait a minute. Why are we trying to capture the genetically created kid?
Oh, that's a great question, Richard. So apparently when we get our first introduction to the female doctor, again, I can't remember her name. I should have looked that up. Dr. Ellie Sattler from Jurassic Park. We have a scene where these kids are getting ready to feed some chickens, and all of a sudden these giant locusts, like the size of they're like 2.5, 3 feet long locusts, chase these kids all the way to the barn and devour all their crops. And so Dr. Settler comes out and like you're thinking like, maybe like there's this evolution thing happening. These genetically created dinosaurs, maybe they're somehow spreading this to like other locusts. Oh no, Richard. The locusts only eat non-biosyn, which is the bad genetic company, only eating the non-crops of the non-biosyn crops. So you're like, holy shit, okay, this is going to be like some kind of like big, bad business movie where they're creating these genetically created locusts to destroy other people's farms, to take over land. No, Richard, it's not even that. That storyline stops altogether.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm already confused.
You've got, this movie has no clue what it wanted to be. Like, so they go back to like biosyn, again, like, I think to tie in the...
What is biosyn? But is biosyn... So biosyn's a company?
Yeah, so it's not the original company, but do you remember the computer scientist?
The original company,
one?
I think, was like InGen or something, right?
InGen's the original company. They're the good company.
They're the ones. They're the ones that made the dinosaurs. They're the ones that made Jurassic Park. Okay, so is this the company that Newman from Seinfeld was taking those things to?
Yep, correct.
And then got eaten.
Bison was the one that gave him the Barbasol can to steal.
Yeah.
To steal all the dinosaurs, which I think they talk about it more in the books. I've only read the first book. But in the movie, they might have said something about it, but it's not really referenced at any other point except in this one. But again, like this, I felt like they had like 6 scripts. And they liked like parts of all 6. And they're like, let's just mash them together and get something out. Because, like I could have been up for a big bad, like, bison engineering company. It's like, oh shit, these dinosaurs are all over. Well, let's figure out how we can take, control of the crop and, other parts of businesses, right? We'll genetically create these locusts that only attack crops that people don't buy from us. And then we'll sell them crops. Well, no, that story died. Didn't make any sense. So Dr. Settler, her goal in all this is she basically comes to the assumption that bison's behind the, the big locust.
Okay.
So she's like, oh, I got to get with Dr. Alan Grant so we can get back with Ian, who Ian, for some reason, why I don't know, works for Bison as like a negative motivational speaker. Like all he does, like in his scene, he's sitting there talking to all these young kids that work there. And he's talking about like how all the stuff they're doing is shit and they shouldn't be doing it. And they should ask the question why. And they're like, yeah, okay, lunch is over. We're going to go back to work and create bigger locusts. He's like, you didn't listen to a thing I said. They're like, nope.
Okay.
Yeah, shoehorn him in there somehow. But Richard,
is that the only time he's in the movie?
No, he plays a big part.
Oh, okay.
So when Dr. Allen and Dr. Settler get to the bison, because in the bison like lab is like somewhere up north, and they've got like this valley that's not really cold, but seems like it should be cold, but it's tropical. Again, didn't make any sense. And that's where they've been bringing all the dinosaurs.
So Sam Neill and Laura Dern are going to this company's lab because they made locusts.
Yeah, and they need to get proof from the lab.
Okay.
So they get there, and Ian basically kind of like, is like, yeah, I know all about it. Here's my key card. Go find the locust. And that was about as good as the acting was, which made me kind of sad because I really like him as an actor.
I like Jeff Goldblum, yeah.
Yeah. And again, like this movie could have been like a big bad corporation thing. Would have been fine with that. It didn't really go that route. Like the guy who is the bison head, like they gave him kind of like a Steve Jobs kind of look and feel.
Okay.
And they had this whole weird thing where he was like when you first introduced him, he introduced him to like his assistant, who apparently him and Ian were the ones that were working together to like basically bring the company down. But like he asked him about like a bar. He's like, hey, you got my chocolate bar? And the guy's like, what? He's like, oh, never mind. And he's like eating stuff. So like the whole time you're like, well, like, is he trying to, and like, like big bad company, maybe he's trying to live forever, or maybe he's trying to like cure a disease he has or something. And even then it's like, nope, no real reason. He just wants all the dinosaurs and I don't know. So
Sam Neill and Laura Dern are going to this company, and while they're there, they're like, holy shit, there's a bunch of dinosaurs.
Yeah, which they already knew they were there because they were basically Bison was going and trying to find dinosaurs and bring them to this place, kind of like a safe haven type thing. And for the most part,
Okay.
it was controlled. But this is where they're creating the locust. And Dr. Settler and Dr. Grant go and figure out where that is, and they get their sample or whatever. But then we get the doctor's interaction with Dr. Wu. Or, I'm sorry, the owner of Bison, basically our big bad businessman, getting his interaction with Dr. Wu. And they're both like, Dr. Wu's like, oh my God, we created these big ass locusts for blah, 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 blah. Which you're like, why'd you create the big locust? Blah, 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 blah. But why the fuck did you create big locusts? Blah, 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 blah. Like, no reason.
Why did he create the big locust?
There's no reason given. But they're like, oh my God, we screwed up because now this is going to cause a global event because it's going to eat all the crops. And then all the crops are, the things that eat the crops are going to die. And we eat the things that eat the crops. So we're going to die. And you're like, okay, that seems like a big deal. But why'd you create the locust in the first place? But yeah, but even then, like, again, they could have went back to a whole, like, yeah, but now we have to sell them our seeds, which the locust can't eat, and we'll make even more money. But they didn't do that either. Like, the movie didn't know what they wanted their big bad guy to be. And all the movies...
I don't understand what the point of creating the locusts were.
It gave really no reason. They were just kind of there, and I kept forgetting about them until they got there, and they're like, oh, we're in this lab where they're at, and so then we got to take a sample of one. And basically, for some reason, they had to get the girl, and then Blue, the raptor, she produced a child basically asexually. And she was out in the wild.
Wait, how does Chris Pratt and Sam Neill and Laura Dern know each other?
No, they kind of meet like in a weird way too. So like that, like again, there's a side story. So if we want to, so Chris Pratt and
how far into this movie are we so far?
I mean, 45 minutes.
Okay. Out of how long?
It's like 2:15, 2.5.
Okay. So we're like a little less than halfway. Okay.
Yeah. And so it all kind of comes around. So like these, like basically these bandits kidnapped Blue's baby and the 13-year-old girl that was genetically created, or we think she's genetically created. They kind of changed it on you at the end. And Bison needed those two for some reason. Like they don't really give you a great reason. And then when they show up, Dr. Wu's like, oh, I need to look at you guys because you've got something or another that I can scientifically, do this with, and then I can create something that'll kill the locust because we're gonna have a global extinction if I don't.
Okay.
Like basically just like science. We'll fix it. Science. Like what kind of science? Experiments. Like
gonna science the shit out of this.
So Chris Pratt and Claire Howard, Bryce Howard, they've got the girl and they get kidnapped, and so they're like, oh, we got to figure out where she's at, and so they're going on like a Mission Impossible, like Taken, rampage.
Okay.
They go to Rome, I think. They go somewhere across the ocean because there's going to be a deal.
It looks like Rome because I think that was in the trailer.
Because there's going to be some kind of deal where like somebody that's basically where the transfer is going to happen or whatever. Again, just a big fight scene type thing. There's like a big black market of dinosaurs. There was it's in the trailer. So the guy that gets eaten off of a scooter, he won a competition, I think in like early 20, maybe 19, to be like on set, like be in the movie. But because of COVID and everything, they're like, man, I don't know if we can get him in here because they're like you guys aren't even able to fly in and out. Like you can't even bring your families in. I guess Chris Pratt, like when they were talking about that, he told them, he's like, listen, if you guys love America, you'll get this guy in the movie. Which I'm going to use that line for the rest of my life. Like you're going to like Tiffany and I would be talking. She's going to be like, man, babe, I'm not in the mood. I'm going to be like, sweetie, if you love America, you're going to get in the mood. Yeah.
You love America, don't you?
Like, Shawn, I don't think you should get that new game. Tiffany, if you love America.
If you love America.
You'd let me get this game. Like, you can't. It's like, no.
Oh, say, can you?
But so, where was I going with all that? So, yeah, that guy gets eaten in the movie. So he made it in the movie. I guess they green screened a bunch of it. But then they figure out, oh my gosh, like, so there's this like lady that shows up out of nowhere. And I don't know if you remember from Jurassic Park 2, but Ian has a daughter in that movie who, I guess he was like with, like, basically like a mixed, like she's his daughter, but black. I don't know if adopted, but I think it's like his.
Yes.
And
okay,
so,
yes, I remember.
So in this, there's like this like woman who would have been about the age that girl would have been now. And she, you know, like looked like her a little bit. She like kind of had like this like renegade Ian kind of feel. And I was like, holy shit, is this going to be Ian's daughter? Like that'd be kind of dope. Like she's doing all this like dinosaur stuff too, but she's kind of got that like,
sure,
you know, absolutely nothing to do with Ian. Just random character that's like, I'm going to help you guys because it's the right thing to do.
No.
Yeah.
Disappointed.
Yeah. So like she flies them to the place, they crash land. They're, you know, running away from dinosaurs, couple like crazy, like, you know, over the top, like, oh my God, jump out
place.
of the plane.
What place? Like the lab?
No, yeah, they fly up to the lab because they realize that that's where the girl is. Like they're essentially their adopted daughter, the genetically created girl. So like we got to go there and save her.
So Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard are going to the lab to save the girl and the raptor, and then Sam Neill and Laura Dern are going to the lab because they want proof that they made these locusts or whatever.
Correct. And also the part I forgot to mention is Chris Pratt promised Blue that he would get her daughter back.
Oh, all right.
So he made a deal with Blue
with
that
a
he
raptor.
Could not break. Yeah, and she kind of understood. You could tell.
Of course, I'm sure she blinked her eye twice.
She did, and she's like, "I'll go back in the woods. You be back soon. I have a better set of sophisticated skills, but." You're Chris Pratt, so go get him, Star-Lord.
So I can eat it.
So they crash land. They're walking through the woods with all the dinosaurs, a couple dinosaurs running around. And at that point, that's when Dr. Grant and Ian and Dr. Settler, and they ran into the genetic modified girl too. So like they teamed up. And then we get a mesh up in the woods. Like, you know, you hear the whole like, help. And Chris Pratt comes running and it's like, oh my God, it's our daughter. And then I think he was
so they all meet.
Yeah. And they're like, aren't you Dr. Grant? He's like,
meets new.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, aren't you Dr. Grant? He's like, yeah, aren't you Star-Lord? He's like, yeah, fuck yeah. But then the T-Rex shows up.
Oh no!
And at that point, like this was like it's the last movie, and like I had like thoughts of like when I had my. Is it
the last movie?
They've said it is. Could they,
Sean? Is it the last movie?
They could do more, but this movie's like been shit on pretty hard. Like it would take a hard reboot, I think, to make it work.
I mean, everybody shat on Morbius too, but.
Are they doing a Morbius too?
I don't know. They re-released it in theaters.
Nice. I haven't seen it yet because everybody was so like. So I didn't go see Morbius because everybody's like, this movie sucks. And I was like, oh, okay, I won't go. The same thing with this one. Like everybody's like, this movie's like really bad. Like, think of how bad you thought any of the other ones were. This one's even worse. And I was like, no. It's got dinosaurs. It's gotta be good.
You can't make a bad dinosaur movie.
Yeah, because even if it's like, well, the acting's not that great, I'm like, yeah, but dinosaurs. And then you're there and you're like, this acting is horrible and there's not very many dinosaurs. So they mesh up. They gotta like, you know, So like they did a few like cool callbacks. So like you remember in Jurassic Park 1, Ian, like when T-Rex was going after everybody, jumps out with the flare and gets its attention.
Right.
He kind of does that with like a big flame stick. Like he lights a thing on fire on a stick with like a cloth, like a torch, and gets the dinosaur's attention that way. And I was like, oh my God, like if you had him sacrifice himself, like that'd be a pretty big moment. Like that'd be something you talk about. Like it was like, oh my God, like Ian died.
Yeah.
Like he sacrificed. Like it was the same thing, but he's like 20 years older, not as fast, not as like agile. No, he just shoves the thing down the dinosaur's throat and it like explodes and he runs away and makes it.
Oh my.
Yeah. You're like, well, okay, Indiana Jones.
I feel like this is a bit more graphic than what I remember Jurassic Park being.
I mean, you remember like stuff getting eaten in the first one, like the one dude on the pooper when he got eaten.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see people getting eaten, and you saw maybe like a dismembered limb here or there, but I don't remember like a dinosaur getting blown up.
Yeah, this was a bit more like extreme. Like it was like a Michael Bay directed Jurassic Park movie.
God damn it.
So what else happens with that? So this is the point where I'm kind of like, all right, like let's get through this. Come on. So they had their sample, and then like because of this, so they had the main business guy, like they had this like cage of locusts and like this glass enclosure, and so he's basically like destroy the evidence, and so they like go to torch it, like they've got like this like flame thing in there, and it's lighting them all on fire, and they're all flying all over the place on fire, but somehow because a $1 trillion company wouldn't be smart enough to make sure that these things couldn't get out. They get out. And so these so these flaming locusts are flying across the sky, and as they're on fire, they drop to the ground and they set this, heaven on earth place on fire. And now all the dinosaurs are like, what the fuck? Not again.
This is bullshit.
Yeah, so they had to somehow they had metal transmitters in their chips in their head that they could kind of control them. That too didn't make sense. Like the only fun line with that is
they could control the dinosaurs?
Yeah, they had chips in their head so they could be like, yeah, if we need to bring them in, we just give them the signal and they come in. Like some kind of mild shock or something like that. And Dr. Grant's like, doesn't that seem kind of inhumane? And this was one of the funny lines because the guy's like, you do remember how much voltage the original Jurassic Park had, didn't you? He's like, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
So now they got to get away. We didn't really have much, there was no raptors besides Blue. You saw the T-Rex a little bit, but they had an Indominus Rex was the big one, I think, in this. And so they're trying to get into a helicopter to get away. And this is where oh shit, as they're getting ready to shoot this movie, fuck. And they're like, what's wrong? We forgot the big fucking dinosaur fight. Oh damn, what do we do?
Oh yeah.
Oh, let's fucking put it at the end. You remember at the end of Jurassic World where we had the T-Rex, the big one that fucking fought, and then the big sea dinosaur jumped out and ate the other one. Let's fucking do something like that. Yeah, fucking metal. Blah, blah, blah. This is where I hate people that make movies.
Well, the dinosaurs kick ass.
Yeah, CGI motherfuckers.
Yeah, and then they high five.
Yeah. And he's like, all right, calling it a day. It's it's 8:03. Yeah, it's been a long day. So the T-Rex and Dominus, they have a big fight. It was kind of sad at one point because the Dominus did knock down the T-Rex, and you're like, fuck, they're going to kill it. They're going to kill the T-Rex.
Fine. For once, that T-Rex is going to finally die.
Yeah. But then they had this weird, Freddy Krueger dinosaur that got in on the action, too. It had, big, long, claws. But it was getting the shit kicked out of it, too. But then the T-Rex is wakes up. He's like, I'm ready for round 2, motherfucker. Gets up.
That T-Rex is like Godzilla, where somehow it just, even though it's severely underpowered all the time, somehow manages to pull it off.
Yeah, because in the first one, when it fights the raptors, it's that's kind of dope. And they're like, oh, let's make it fucking happen all the time. You're like, let's not. And so it ends up pushing it into the claws of the other one, and they kill it, and it slides off, and they high five each other. And then they're like, let's make a buddy cop movie. And they're like, that'd be a great idea. T-Rex and Freddy Krueger hand dinosaur. Take L.A. At this point, I was just pissed. I was annoyed.
Just make a buddy cop movie. Something.
So
Fuck.
They fly away and they expose Bison. The owner of Bison, of course, he was trying to get away and he got all of his stuff. He had another kind of throwaway thing, but he had the Barbasol can and it was rusted on the bottom. So apparently somehow he went and got that can. It was one of the things he took. But he ran away and he got killed by the big venom spitting dinosaur and they all ate him.
Oh, just like Newman in the original.
Yeah. You're all right.
Okay.
Cool. Whatever. Although Chris Pratt, we learned, because that one of those was about to spit on his girl, and he grabbed it by the throat. He's like, "No, don't you dare!" And it was like, "All right," and ran away. It's like he essentially choked a dinosaur.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I was like, all right.
I thought it was and this is what we learned. Chris Pratt speaks dinosaur, and then you're like, what?
Maybe he's like rah 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 rah. It was like rah 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 rah. So rah 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 rah. So they get on the helicopter, they fly away to safety. Bison gets exposed. The girl's like, I'm not. Oh, and we learned that the girl that was a genetically modified girl, it was really that her mom made her, and essentially she was a direct copy of her mom kind of thing.
Okay, so she's a clone,
kind of, but her mom carried her. Her mom was pregnant with the girl, but she was a direct copy of her mom.
Okay.
But her mom had some rare genetic disease, but because of what she did, that didn't get passed on to her. So that was kind of the other reason she was important. So it's oh my God, we can figure out how to do this and save people. You're like, all right, Dr. Wu's like, I can fix it. And they're like, no, fuck you. He's like, no, I'm sorry. They're like, okay, get on the copter.
Yeah. And then the dinosaur's about to and Chris Pratt's like, wah, 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 wah.
He did. So he did go back and he found Blue and they shot it with a tranq dart. And so he's carrying it on his back. And Dr. Ian, as they're getting on the copter, he's like, you have a dinosaur on your back. And he looks back at it. He's like, yeah, I made a promise to her mom. And Ian's like, you made a promise to a dinosaur? He's like, yeah. All right. He looks at the dinosaur on his back and goes, rah, rah, rah. So they get back, nothing's really solved except Bison's exposed for everything. And people are like, oh my God, Bison, that's awful. But we still got dinosaurs, but credits. All right.
Oh, that's it? That's the end?
Basically. And the whole time you're sitting there listen, you could have made you could have set this up so Bison, the company, was what caused all of this stuff, right? Because technically in the first one, it was their fault that Jurassic Park fell apart.
Yeah.
And the second, third one really didn't have...
Because they paid Newman, and then Newman shut the fences and shit off, and then that's when everything went bad.
Yeah, and I don't remember the company in the second one, but you could be they were funded by Bison. Oh my God, this is an evil company. Jurassic World, the first one. Well, what happened that was so bad? Bison. Second one, what made the volcano explode? Bison.
Kind of like the newer James Bond movies with who's James Bond right now? I can't think of his name.
He's only been
Daniel
Bond
Craig.
for 15 years.
The Daniel Craig James Bond movies, where the last couple of movies he was tracking down people, and then he finds out about this evil organization called Spectre. Which Spectre was in the old movies too, but basically he finds out that Spectre was basically responsible for all the bad shit that happened to him through the earlier movies.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to set this up as a happy ending, your end credits, you get all that exposed, all this stuff about why stuff failed was because of this company. And then in the end, you have like they open back up Jurassic World like 5 years later, and it's like actually going to work. You know, it's just like a zoo. It's like a safe sanctuary, and it works because now we don't have a company trying to sabotage it. But they didn't go that route at all. And even the callbacks, like with Dr. Ian and Dr. like Settler, like I felt like you could have played them differently in this too. But they were just kind of like, there wasn't a lot of, they were brought in kind of give you nostalgia. And there was a few nostalgic moments, like the kind of callbacks and stuff like that. But they did not feel like they wanted to be there. Like the acting was very stale. And
well, Shawn, you've been talking to me about this for 50 minutes, and I don't want to be here.
I know, right? I feel like I've tried to make it more entertaining than what it was.
Honestly, I'm glad that you're telling me about this now, because now I really don't have to see it.
Yeah,
it's not one of those things where people are like, "Oh, this movie's bad," and then you're like, "Well, I should at least watch it." Just so I have like a frame of reference. You know what I mean?
No.
But at this point, I don't need the frame of reference because you just told me about it. So now I really don't have to see it. So I guess I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. Like I do these episodes for you and Dave in Chicago because I know like sometimes he doesn't have a lot of time to go to the movies with his family and stuff. Because there was a movie he really I think it was Spider-Man. He's like, listen, I'm not going to be able to see this. Can you spoil it for me? Just tell me everything about it. And so I DM'd him. I got in his DMs and told him all about it. So that's what I'm trying to do here for him. So he's like, man, I can only see like one movie every 3 months. What movie should it be? Not this one, Dave. Not
this one. Don't see this one.
But it's just like,
I'll tell you what, like if I took my entire family to go see this movie and I watched this movie, I'd walk out and realize the money I spent to go see this movie. I'd be pissed.
Like my kiddo wanted to go see it. Like he's like, can I go see it? And I was like, well, let me check it out first just to make sure it's like not too scary. And I came home and he's like, am I going to be able to see it? And I'm like, no. Like this movie, like I'm sorry, don't cover your ears. You need to hear this. This movie sucked ass. He's like, what's that mean? I'm like, it was terrible. Like, we're going to watch something else, not this. Like, we'll watch Jurassic Park 2 before we watch this one. But, I mean, it's, you know, it's one of those things, like, they're like, end of a saga. And I think it's just like, you know, anything like, you know, you think of like Marvel or, you know, DC, I think struggles because they don't have this. If you just had somebody be like, here's what we need to do for 6 movies, or here's what we need to do for 3, then we'll get somewhere. It'll be kind of a cool little trilogy. But instead, it's like, well, let's see how it works. Oh, my God, it did really well. We need to do a second one. Ooh, that did pretty good, too. Let's do a third one. What you got?
So what you're saying is that they're like, oh, this is the end of a saga. And then you watched it, and then you're like, oh, good.
Yeah, because I'm
glad this is the end.
Well, and it kind of ruins it. It's like, I'm just going to forget about this movie altogether. I'm going to watch the 5, maybe just the 4, and stop there.
There you go. There you go.
I mean, the ending, it was kind of like, if you talk about like anything you took from it that was kind of good in the end, when they get Blue and her daughter back together, like the little dinosaur looks at the little girl and they're like, oh my God, we have a bond. It's like, yeah, we do. Rah, 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 rah.
Yeah. And the little girl's like,
off. And Blue like runs off too. And then they're like walking back their car and Chris Pratt looks back out there and he's like, rah, 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 rah. And then Blue comes back.
That's how it ends. It's just Chris Pratt like doing that through the whole end credits.
Well, what happened, like it was awkward because you could tell his girlfriend was really pissed, but him and Blue started like making out. And you're like, wait a minute. We need to get Maury out here and see who the father of this baby is.
And credits.
And credit. And I don't know if there's any end credit scenes because I did not stay. I was like, fuck you, I'm out.
All right, so Shawn, so if there's can you sum this entire movie up in 15 words or less? And that'll be your closing thought.
Genetic kid, adopted parents, meet doctors to bring down bad company, very few dinosaurs around.
That's the whole movie. There you
The whole
go.
movie right there.
So if anybody just skipped to the end to want to know, like, well, what I don't want them to spoil it for me. What do they think of this movie? I mean, you did just spoil it with that sentence, but that's fine because they don't need to see it because it's bad.
Yeah, if they that's the TLDL. Too long, didn't listen. Go right there.
Yep.
But all right, well, before I don't know who owns it. Universal, yeah, Universal. Before they come and cease and desist us, like, no, this is going to be an Oscar-winning movie, and be like, all right, and we're an award-winning podcast. We'll do some housekeeping. Visit our website, we're languageofbromance.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at languageofbro. Email us at bros@languageofbromance.com. And if you want to take that bigger step and come to our Jurassic world, join our Patreon, just like Wendy and Aaron.
See, you paid us so that way we could tell you not to waste your money on that.
Yep.
So you're welcome.
And I will say in our Language of Bromance Patreon language that only us four know. Rah, 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 rah. They know what it means. If you want to know what that means, join our Patreon.
Nailed it.
All right. Was there anything else before I close her out?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, that's all the Bromance have for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And remember, don't be a why. Be a why.